her own.
I'm doing it because I've already forgotten what
Yeah,
I
Brush your hair,
saw
brush your
yesterday.
hair, brush your hair.
I should have
Right.
thought.
Yeah. Okay. You can if you want to.
Oh, it's all right. I presume it's on YouTube somewhere.
It is actually. Yeah, it
Okay.
will be definitely. Okay. So I want this stitch here. That's going to be the start of. Hang on, one stitch back. Sorry. I want this stitch here to be orange. Okay. So on the stitch before that, the stitch where I want the first orange stitch to be, I'm going to join in the orange yarn. So joining in, I do it the stitch before it's needed.
Only one stitch.
One stitch before. So I go into the, and this is on the right side of stocking stitch. So I go into the next stitch ready to knit. I take the new yarn and I lay it on top of the right hand needle with my thumb on top to keep it steady. So it's in the way of the colour that I'm working with. Okay, so it's very simple. As I go to knit the last stitch of this teal colour, it just holds in the back the orange. It's loose. If I pull it, it will come out, but it's held firmly enough for me to be able to pick up and use it. Okay, so then what I do, bearing in mind the next stitch is orange, and I don't need the teal anymore. The teal is going to go over to the left, keeping it at the back of the work. I pick up my new colour and I work that one orange stitch. Okay, now as we've only got one stitch here at the point of the diamond, I am going to take this colour across the back of that one stitch. I know I said I don't normally, because that's technically ferrule, but we're going across one stitch, which is not a problem. When the diamond gets to 3 stitches wide, which will be the next right side row, I will then introduce the second bit of the background colour. Okay, so old colour, this is what you do every time you change colour in Intarsia. Old colour to the left, pick up the colour that you want. Even though it doesn't look like it's doing anything, do that, because that crossover there will stop any holes. Okay, so I'm working to the end of the row, Okay, so on the next row back, on the purl row, I'm just going to keep everything in the same colour sequence. Okay, so I'm not joining in on this row, all I'm doing is changing colour. So when you change colour, you work right up to the colour change and cross the arms over. Okay, so I'm going to purl back. Okay, so it's needle in, old colour that I don't want anymore, over to the left, keeping it on the wrong side of the work. Pick up the new colour, so can you see it's coming up from underneath and crossing with the old colour, and that's what stops the gap. Okay, and then again, I've now finished with the orange, so the orange goes over to the left. It's always to the left with the old colour, so it makes you pick up the new colour, so it comes over the top of the old one. Okay. Right,
So we only did one stitch again, not
Yes.
2 stitches.
did one stitch, and the next row I'm going to go out one either side,
Okay.
so it becomes like a diamond
Yeah.
shape. Okay. So here I could have gone out on that row, but I
Okay.
decided not to. I just wanted to show you the crossing
Yeah,
over on
yeah.
this row again. So here I'm just going to pull on the tail there gently, and just on both yarns, just to make sure that the tension is as similar as possible in those 2 stitches there, and then I'll continue to the end of the row. Okay, now on the next row, that one orange stitch, I'm going to turn it into 3 stitches. In other words, I'm going to increase one, not increase, but that stitch there will be orange, and the one either side will be orange. Okay, so that's my one stitch there. Now, can you see that slight bleed of orange through that stitch there? It's not very obvious, but you can see it. So that's because the tail where I joined the orange in on the previous row just needs to be just slightly tightened up, just slightly pulled, okay, to make that neat. Okay, so coming back on this row, that's going to be orange and that's going to be orange. Okay, so we're going to have 3 orange stitches. So on this row, I'm going to combine, I'm going to be changing colour, but also introducing this new one. It gets more exciting as we go on, you see. Right, okay. So you work across, and because remember that when we joined in a colour, we worked to the stitch before, but when you're actually just changing colour, you work right up to the colour change, not to the stitch before. So this one wants to be orange. This is the point at which I'm changing colour. So needle in, old colour over to the left, pick up the new colour so it crosses with the old, and then I'm going to knit one stitch. Now, as I'm knitting across in this direction, but the shape is coming towards me, so I'm knitting across like this, but the orange is coming one stitch to the right. And if you were knitting this, you'd feel a funny tension at this point because the yarn's being pulled over against the direction of the knitting.
Yeah.
Okay, so to avoid that stitch from being very loose and baggy and horrible on the next row up, I take the slack out of that stitch by holding the two orange stitches close together and just pulling. And that will take any slack out of the back, which means I'll have a nice colour change there and not a horrible baggy stitch, okay? Okay, so I continue.
So it's quite tight then.
Yes, it is quite tight, otherwise it's loose.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next one's going to be orange, okay, but because it's turning orange in the direction that I'm knitting, I don't have to do that funny pulley bit that I just did because you'll feel in your hands that it actually feels quite smooth anyway. Okay, so, but what I do have to do here is join in my next ball of background colour, the stitch before I need it. Okay, so this could be on a bobbin or on a ball or on a length, it's totally up to you. I've got it on a length today. So, into the next stitch ready to knit. Lay the new yarn on top of the right hand needle and just steady it under your thumb. Pick up your working colour, which is this one. Knit the stitch, next stitch, and as you do, it just clips into the back of the work, your new colour. Okay, the tail can go around to the back. Then old colour over to the left, as we did before. Pick up the new colour, making sure it's not that one you're picking up, that's for this side. It's this new one. And then work to the end of the row. So on that row, I change colour by working up to the colour change, and then I introduce the second ball of the teal, the stitch before I needed it. Okay, so on the way back, I'm just going to let the stitches sit in the same sequence. So all I'm doing on this row again is just changing colour. Okay, so just to go over that again, you work right up to the colour change. So I work right up to the orange stitch. Which is here, whoops, which is here. Okay, so it's needle in. Whether you're on a right side or a wrong side row, it's always the same. Old colour over to the left, keeping it at the back of the work, the wrong side of the work, I should say. Pick up your new colour. Work the first stitch. I'm just going to stop and just pull those two yarns so they're to the same tension. Work the next stitch. I'll give a little pull again because that will tighten up the previous orange stitch if there's any slack in there. So you're always sort of stopping and pulling and tugging really to keep it as neat as possible.
That's good to know because I don't do that. I don't
Yeah,
do that.
you're not. It's not that it's hard to sort of describe the tension that I'm putting on the yarn, but I'm not really pulling it hard. I'm just making sure the yarns are to the same tension. So old colour over to the left again. That's from that side. I want this one here. Okay, so crossing over, and I'll show you one more row, and I'm going to go out one more stitch again. Okay, you do the same on a wrong side row. So if your shape is moving out to the left or right, you need to make sure that if it's going against your direction of either knitting or purling, it feels odd. You'll know what I mean because it feels awkward. Then you need to do that funny little tightening up bit, which I'm going to show you again now. End of every row, I just give a little pull on all the yarns to make sure it's all nice and neat. Okay, let's just go again. So next row I'm going to go out to 5 stitches. Okay, so this one's going to be orange. Okay, so it's needle in, old colour over to the left, pick up the new yarn, work the stitch, right, but the stitch is coming against the flow of the knitting and it feels awkward, so I've got to tighten it up. So hold both orange stitches close together and pull all the slack out until it's nice and tight, and that will help that's split actually there. That will help avoid a loose stitch. Okay, so all the way there. This one's going to be orange, so into that one. Make it orange. Okay, and then colour change. Old colour to the left. Pick up the new one so it comes from underneath and over the top of the old. Stop, give a pull on both yarns, just gently, and then work to the end. And that's I say it's all you
it's
do.
all the pulling.
It's
I
all
don't
that.
do.
Yeah. It's you see, Intarsia. If I was to sit here and teach you fair roll, there would be many more techniques in fair roll to show you because it's more technique based. Intarsia, there's just joining in the stitch before and crossing your yarns over basically. But what makes it more difficult, I think, than fair roll is getting it neat. So all that tugging I was doing and you know trying to tighten the stitches up, that's what takes time. That's what makes it quite slow work,
But
if
it
I'm
makes
honest.
a huge difference.
But it makes it a
to the
huge
final.
difference.
Beautiful. Thank you. for
Okay,
sharing
so they're
that.
your basics. You'll be able to find it